All right, well, it is that time again, everybody. And that is 8:30, where we do the live stream. Hope everybody had a good Thursday, right? It's not too bad outside, beautiful day. Before we get started on the stream, I want to put in a couple proceedings here to try to cut down on the spam in the chat. So could you guys let me know in the chat if the subscribers only mode is on? I want to try something different tonight. I want to try to turn on the subscribers only mode. Hopefully that will cut down on the spam bots here. So can anybody let me know if it's on? Do you guys see it on? It is on? Okay. Okay, perfect. All right, well, everybody, welcome to Walks on Wall Street. It is around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in New York City. Beautiful day, beautiful night out in New York. Tonight we are going to be walking downtown. We're going to check out the East Village. If we have time, maybe we'll go to Little Italy, maybe we'll go to Chinatown. Just depends. We have a couple topics to talk about tonight. You know, we did get some economic data out. I did have some time to do a little bit more digging into the brand new inflation protection or reduction bill as it relates to share buybacks or share repurchase programs and how they are taxed. So I want to do a quick review for the group about, number one, what are share buybacks? Okay, what are stock repurchase programs, why they're important, why we should pay attention to them as investors, and sort of the different ways that they are taxed or susceptible to taxation. Okay, now there's mainly two ways that large corporations return value to shareholders, which we review oftentimes on the stream, and that is dividends, and that is share repurchase programs. So tonight we're going to dive into what this new bill says. How are they going to tax share buybacks? How much money is that going to raise? And then from the money that is raised from the taxation of the share buybacks, what is that going to go towards? You know, is it just going to float away into fairy dust, or is it going to go to something good? We'll talk about that. So we have some news out of CNN, breaking news out of CNN tonight. Obviously, we've been talking about the crazy rental prices, not only here in New York City, but across the United States. So check this out, everybody. Breaking news from CNN Business. Rents in Manhattan have now hit a record high for the 6th consecutive month in a row, as median rent hit $4,150 in July, up 29% year over year. Now, the average rent also went gangbusters again, breaking $5,113, an increase of about $113 month over month. So we're going to talk about what's going on in the rental market. How does that relate to the housing market? How does that relate to the Federal Reserve raising interest rates? And then we are going to cap the stream off with talking about Disney. So Disney reported earnings. There's some really nuanced things that I think we should dive into tonight on the stream as it relates to Disney's earnings report. They did beat on both the top and the bottom line. There were a little bit of, I would say, some sections of that earnings report that were a little bit concerning. Obviously, that has to be in relation to the streaming services. Obviously, huge cash burn there. But the good news is, and this is a little bit crazy, as of yesterday, when Disney reported earnings, Disney now passes Netflix in total subscribers. So 221 million versus the 220 million subscribers that Netflix has. So it seems as if Disney is giving Netflix a run for their money. And that's the recap for the stream, or that's the agenda for tonight. So let me put my laptop away, everybody. Hopefully, the added precautions that we are putting in place on tonight's stream hopefully it'll negate or at least stop all of the spam bots altogether. I have been getting some emails from you guys, especially from some of the viewers. Hold on, my mic is tangled here. Give me a minute. From some of the viewers who watch with their kids and things like that, and they're like, look, you got to do something about the spam bots because oftentimes they put out inappropriate stuff, which I get and I understand and I appreciate that, and I'm doing everything I can. So we have the Nightbot working overtime. I did reprogram the Nightbot. I had a friend help me out, and from now on, unfortunately, due to the spam, we will have subscribers only mode turned on. So if you want to chat or say something in the chat, you do have to be a subscriber of the channel. All right, everybody, let's see who's in the chat. We have Brian is here. What's up, Brian? Good to see you. AT4 Nerds says, what's going on? Lemonade says, I made it first. Good to see you, Lemonade. Miguel is here, says, what's up? What's up, Miguel? I hope you're well. You know, the good news is the humidity has completely gone away here in New York City, as we've been battling ridiculous humidity for probably about a week now. Austin City Limits is here, says, hey Tom, what's up, Austin City Limits? Irish Dylan is here, welcome, says, hello, it is 1:42, we appreciate it. So obviously we're starting off the stream on Park Avenue. I did just get out of work. But tonight, for those of you who are just joining, we are going to be headed downtown towards East Village location. Hopefully, if we have time, we'll be working our way down through Soho to Little Italy and the like. Hey, War Walker says, how are you, Tom and mods? Good to see you. Mike is here, says, good evening, Tom. What's up, Mike? Welcome. Welcome. Hemp Lord is here, good to see you. Rusty Golfer. Bernard Friedman, my good friend from Fort Lauderdale, what's up? Gregory says, I think that will help increase your subscriber count. Yeah, so I mean, I really didn't want to put these, I would say, precautions in place. But unfortunately, you know, as the stream has been growing, it's been attracting some spam. Hey, Laura M is here, good to see you. It says, hey, Tom from North Carolina, welcome all of our friends from the Carolinas. Carson is here, says, hey, Tom, good to see you, Carson. So it's going to be a light night. It's going to be a light night. It was definitely a very busy day at work, a very busy day on Wall Street. The market pulled back a little bit. So if we look at the S&P 500, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the NASDAQ, all markedly lower on the day. But we have to understand this market is at least short-term extended, right? We've had a massive monstrous rally off the lows. We've had earnings season roll through. We have the CPI report coming in yesterday, which we covered on the stream. So I think the market is due for a digestion here. And hopefully, as we pull back, we'll find a floor. And if we break the highs, I think that's a good place to go long. Now, we will be talking about the number one rule on Wall Street, and obviously, as we've been doing these streams, we've been naming people like Ray Dalio, Stanley Druckenmiller, and they all say the same thing. Paul Tudor Jones, they're like, look, don't fight the Federal Reserve, don't fight the Fed. And Neil Kashkari, which is one of the Fed presidents, he actually came out and made some remarks on the recent CPI report we got. And he said, even though it seems like inflation is cooling a little bit, that is not going to deter us, or it shouldn't deter us from additional rate hikes. So if you look at futures markets, it looks like we're probably going to get another 75 basis point rate hike. And if we just go by that mantra of not fighting the Fed, I mean, markets could fall under pressure here further. Hey, Cynthia Martinez is here. Good to see you, Cynthia. Welcome. Vinny Castellano is here. Good to see you. Steph Wright says, my rent in England is approximately $600. Come move to England. Yeah, so we got some more news out of, hold on, I gotta, just give me a second here, everybody. I'm just gonna mute my Microsoft Teams notifications. I forgot to do that. Or else we're gonna have Microsoft Teams notifications popping up on the entire chat. Anthony's here, what's going on? Yeah, I mean, that was some big news again. You know, I was reading an article in CNN Business today. So rents are up yet again. And I think this is why it's really important to look at those CPI numbers, right? And I think that now that we've been doing the stream for quite a while, I think people, are you guys starting to sort of get, like, to see the trend and try to anticipate things? So as we look at the reports like the PMI numbers, as we look at the CPI numbers, and we sort of chart this and really understand and do a deep dive into what those particular reports are saying, this isn't like breaking news to us, right? Because we already know essentially what's been going on, because it's been telegraphed to us over the past 6 months from all these numbers. So if you remember back to last night on the stream, we were doing a deep dive into the CPI report, and yes, it is good news that energy prices are coming down. Yes, it is good news that prices of gasoline are coming down. But did you notice the main portion, or I would say one of the main portions of the CPI that makes up about 33% of the consumer price index, and that is shelter costs. Okay, that is shelter costs. And shelter was up over 5% year over year, and about 0.5% month over month. So it's no surprise when, I took a little bit of a break at work, I was scrolling through the Wall Street Journal, CNN Business, and one of the headlines that catches my eye is that for the 6th consecutive month on the island of Manhattan, not only the median rents are higher, but also the average rents. So if you remember this time last month when we were talking about rents in New York City, we were saying for the first time ever, the average rent in New York City is over $5,000. Well, now it's actually higher than that. It's about $113 higher. So out of the data that came in, I think from Douglas Elliman today, average rents I would say on the island of Manhattan are $5,113. And I think that is confirmed, right? Well, not I think, we know that data is confirmed from what we're seeing in the CPI numbers, right? We're seeing energy prices come down, which is good, but we're not seeing the same thing with shelter costs. Shelter costs are actually increasing not only year over year, but month over month. And it's unfortunate because shelter is probably, I would argue, one of the largest expenses for the average everyday American out there. But right now, before we head downtown, we're about to make a left on 5th Avenue. This is the corner of 5th and 57th Street. Hey, Google is here. Says, hey, everybody. What's up, Google? Welcome. Ed Potke is joining us. Welcome, Ed. Good to see you. I see Gigi NYC. Hey, sunshine after rain. Good to see you. Thank you for being a great moderator. Lena Sandoval. Marcy is here. Beautiful night. Thank God I was about to say inflation. Thank God the humidity has died down. Hey, Dan Zhang says, hey, Tom, love the stream as always. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. David says, let's hear your thoughts on the very strong dollar and its implications domestically and globally. Well, I think it's a big problem, right? I think it's a big problem, and we've reviewed this many times on the stream, but I think it's appropriate maybe to review it one more time. But if you really want to know the implications of a strong US dollar, I would do one of two things. Well, the first thing I do is, if you have like tradingview.com or something like that, which is a free charting software, just pull up a chart of the Dixie or the DXY, which is the dollar index, and you'll see the relative strength of the dollar is really just going parabolic here. We've since pulled down or pulled back, but the second thing I would implore you to do is listen in on all of the major earnings calls that we've been going through this earnings season, and we've been covering them on the streams. And in almost every single company that we've covered on the Walks on Wall Street stream that reported Q2 earnings, every single one of them listed the same exact headwind. And that headwind was FX exchange rates, right? So I think Apple took a multi-billion-dollar hit on their top and bottom line due to a strong US dollar. Same thing happened with Microsoft, and most notably, the CEO of ServiceNow, which is Bill McDermott. So Bill McDermott said the same thing, and it's not just exclusive to a software company like ServiceNow. If you're a large company and you do business in other parts of the world, and you sell your product or service in that foreign currency, when you go to exchange those foreign currency, or whatever it's in, to US dollars, you're obviously going to be getting a lot less US dollars. So that's been a really, really big problem. Really, really big problem. Hey, the Mighty Bull is here. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. It says, hey Tom, greetings to all moderators and friends around the world. Welcome to a new day created by the Creator. Amen to that. Good to see you, Mighty Bull. Hope you and your family are well. Long time no see. G-Shep is here. So what's up, Tom? Good to see you, G-Shep. Yeah, Google's like, yeah, I said, oh, thank God inflation. No. Thank God the humidity is finally broken. Lila is here, says good evening all. What's up, Lila? Adam is here, says good evening. Hey, the one and only Daryl from Chicago, Illinois is here. Good to see you, Daryl. Wendy, England. So everybody, we're standing outside of Trump Tower. And yesterday, and I would say probably about for half of the day today, there was media outlets, news organizations, all standing across the street from Trump Tower, obviously reporting on the news of the FBI raid. Carol H is here, says, hey, Tom and friends. Stephanie says, good evening. Wesley West, welcome. Della's Lifestyle says, average rent in Memphis, Tennessee is $1,800. It definitely sounds a lot more attractive than the average rents here. But, you know, as we've been talking about this, I think it's really important to note that I think especially in a place like Manhattan, right, where it's so diverse, not just in the people here, but I would say the specific neighborhoods, right? And we reviewed this, but I guess it's appropriate to review it once more. You know, if you go to a place like 57th Street, the rents are really, really going to skew things as opposed to... Hold on one second.
I can't fuck with you at all. Because you definitely can't do what the fuck I'm doing right now.
Let's let this guy pass. He's not too happy with the FDA. If you take a place like Billionaires Row, those rental numbers are probably really going to skew the statistics as you factor in a place like Washington Heights, East Harlem, maybe the East Village, something like that. So I think the median rent is a little bit more, I would say, an appropriate number to look at if we're really trying to understand what sort of the market is doing here. But the median rent is also very, very high here on the island of Manhattan. I think the median rent is well over $4,000. Yeah, hey Brian, what's up, man? Jamie is here, says what's up. Arctic Trend, welcome. Ibrahim Azam, good to see you, long time no see. Lila says, Tom, the rent here in Augusta, Georgia is $1,200 a month, but wages are not increasing and are much lower than the national average. Yeah, that's also another issue, right? So even though, you know, to be fair, if you look at that CPI report that we, you know, did analyze in detail yesterday, and if you guys want to look at that CPI report yourself, if you type !CPI in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to the CPI report. Wages actually did increase on a month-over-month basis of about 0.5%. So that's good news, but I think to Lila's point, and she's totally spot on by this, real wages are actually negative when you factor in inflation. Because let's say if you get a 3% to 5% pay raise, right, even though I think that's something to be proud of and that's definitely a good thing, you know, if inflation is running at 8.5%, 8.1%, 9%, in real terms, you actually didn't get a pay raise, you got a pay cut. So I think we all need to be cognizant of that. So to Lila's point, I think you're correct. GG NYC says, Tom, almost $4,000 for a small studio. That's insane. 61 is here. Ed Potke says, hey Tom, I do hope you're not a Trump supporter. Why would you say that? Why would it matter? Let's just assume I am. Would that matter? I don't think it would matter. Hey, Van is here. Good to see you, Van. Welcome. Vibe is here. Good to see you. Dan Zhang says, just look at Long Island. You might as well just buy a house instead of paying $4K-ish per month for a rental in Queens. Yeah, I mean, that's a point. That's a good point, but at the same time, Dan, and I think we'll just start off tonight with this conversation. That's exactly why we're seeing rents go gangbusters here, right? And I think this is the final, what I like to call blow off top. And here's what I mean by that. So if you think about what's going on in the, let's just talk about single family homes, if the people who want to buy. Well, think about the affordability now as opposed to the same time last year. Affordability is pretty much cut in half, and the reason for that is because rates have essentially gone up 100%. Now, to be fair, if you look at that US 10-year Treasury yield, yields have come down, which, if we remember from reviewing, it's a loud night here in New York City, very loud. Usually the 30-year the 30-year mortgage tracks the US 10-year Treasury yield in lockstep. But they're definitely not, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you probably can't get anything, what we used to be getting at this time last year, right at 3% or sometimes under 3%. So the problem is all those would-be home buyers are now crowding the rental market. So their mortgage payment has essentially doubled, making home ownership not affordable, and prices have yet to come down. They're coming down slowly but surely, but not fast enough. So essentially what you have is you have double the amount of people looking to rent, thus driving up the price even more. Because those would-be home buyers that could afford the mortgage payment this time last year, well, now they can't afford that anymore because as rates go up, it tacks on a couple $100, depending on what your rate, depending on how much down payment you put down on the house. So it's a really, really bizarre and weird situation. And there was a really good article today that came out of CNN Business. So if you type in New York City rent, CNN Business, I'm sure it's going to be the first one that pops up. But it's a really, really well-written, well-compiled article that actually talks about a lot of the things that we always talk about on the stream each night. So I would definitely recommend to check that out. But as of right now, everybody, we are on East 52nd Street and 5th Avenue overlooking the Cartier building. Hey, Nick is here, says, hey Tom, I was hoping to get Tom's take on the 0% inflation comment by POTUS, or the President of the United States. Yeah, I can get my take on that. Let's just wait for these bikers to go by. So Nick, to your point, I saw that, right, on Twitter. If you guys want to stay connected and follow me on Twitter, it's @WalksWallStreet. For some bizarre reason, there was like a big fight. Everybody was fighting about the fact that Joe Biden came out and said, hey, good news, we got 0% inflation. I didn't really see anything wrong with that. I mean, we reviewed this. Hold on, let me let the bikers pass. Sometimes if the street traffic is too loud, I can't even hear myself think. I mean, we reviewed the CPI report in depth yesterday, and I didn't see anything wrong with that. I think maybe some people who are unfamiliar about how to read the CPI report maybe got a little bit confused, and I think maybe Biden worded it obviously in a way to help his case, right? Because he's the President of the United States, he has to sort of keep a smile on his face and pump things up. But if you look at month-over-month numbers, right? So the theory that was in question here is people were getting confusion between month-over-month statistics and year-over-year statistics. And if you guys watched the live stream last night, what did I say was the main thing that you, as investors, right? If we're talking about as an investor, somebody who manages money, I would say it's more important to actually really hone in and dive down on the month-over-month statistics, because that's actually going to give you a good insight on a brand new emerging trend, right? Now, I don't care about the politics, so that's why I didn't get upset. But a lot of people on Twitter we're upset and, you know, people are fighting about it. It's a waste of energy, I think, to fight about it. But my take is that, yeah, I mean, if you look at year over year, technically CPI was flat. But if you look granularly at the report, the reason for that is because fuel costs offset the rise in other things, right? So again, I would really, really implore everybody, if you type exclamation point CPI in the chat, click the link and scroll down, and you can actually see line item by line item all the categories that went up, all the categories that went down, and what was a big help this time around in the CPI was that energy prices fell. However, food prices did increase, shelter prices did increase, but those increases sort of negated each other because there was a huge, huge drop in gasoline prices. So hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, but to Nick, to your point, it's so funny how everything seems like so politicized these days. I was watching that on Twitter too. I didn't really understand why it was a big pop political thing, but Irish's fuel prices will only go up, they won't go down. Well, I think it depends on which side of the world you're in, right? If you're in Europe, maybe. But here, I mean, if you look at crude oil, we've plummeted all the way from $130 a barrel all the way down to 85, which I think is good, right? I think that's good news. The bad news is, and we covered this last night on the stream, is that shelter, which makes up 33%, or about a third of the CPI, is still really, really running white hot. And I think a lot of the data that's coming out backs that up. So this is actually true information. Going back to sort of the piece we were talking about earlier on the stream of, you know, average rent on the island of Manhattan is now $5,113. Median rent's cracking, I think, $4,500 now. So rental pressures and shelter pressures are still continuing to increase, unfortunately. Yeah, Wesley West is Saks Fifth Avenue. So everybody, we are outside Saks Fifth Avenue. My favorite thing about this building is they always put these American flags here, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Love it. Sat 12 says Walks on Wall Street would be, would a non-growth economy buy better? Sat 12, you're gonna have to put that, you have to retype your comment. Ed Podcast says, that said, never thought you supported Trump, all about money. When did I say I supported Trump? What I said was, why would it matter if I did or not? Who cares? She Lee is here, says, hey Tom, how are you? I'm doing good. How are you? Thank you for joining tonight. It's a beautiful night in Manhattan. Hey, Cora Carpenter says, oh, I missed the ferry ride. So Sunday night, we're gonna go back to the Staten Island Ferry. We're gonna have some really nice views in the Staten Island Ferry. Wendy England, what's up? Photos from around New York. Good to see you, photos. Western Mass Dave says it was very misleading how it was presented. I agree, Tom. CPI is still high, but didn't increase since the prior month. Yeah, so Western Mass Dave, I'll agree with that statement. I agree with that. I think the reason why I didn't really get super turbocharged up about it is because you guys know, if you've been watching the streams for long enough, I'm really just desensitized to the political nonsense. If you let that consume your life, you're never going to succeed. If you let the political jargon and nonsense, get to you, you're just going to be paralyzed. It's like you're going to be in a state of paralysis. Who cares if the next guy supports Biden? Who cares if the next guy supports Trump? Like, get over yourself, man. It's like, who cares? We're ready to rock. Wesley Wex's Fox News channel has a camera overlooking around here before commercials. Really? I didn't know that. That's awesome. Yeah, so I would agree that Biden, he presented it in a way that's going to make himself look good. But then again, isn't that his job? I mean, if it was a Republican in the same situation, they would have done the same thing. It's like, it's the political theater about it, but technically, if you look at the data, he was right. But maybe presented in a little bit weird way. Yeah, Connor, we're gonna go to the East Village tonight. Guys, check this out. So this is Rockefeller Center. I think that's fantastic. It's a good opportunity. I mean, if anybody's thinking about getting into a field, especially as the economy is fearing of recessionary fears and a lot of companies are actually laying off workers, I think now would be a very, very good time to think about going into pharmacy. The ABX girl says you need about 5 years to do pharmacy, and it's not safe. A farm tech was shot during a holdup in North Carolina for drugs. I mean, I think it's if you look at the statistics, I think it's pretty safe to be a pharmacist. I mean, there may be like a one-off, issue where someone robbed the store, but I think it's definitely a lot safer than being a cop or something like that. Hey, Ryan Royal says, I just quit my pharmacy job. I was a technician. COVID decimated the profession because we had to triple our workload with no additional help. Ryan Royal, that's exactly what the article said. I wish I had posted the article or programmed the article in the Nightbot, but to Ryan Royal's point, that's exactly what it said. And so let's take Walgreens, for instance. They said that they're going to be putting tons of money to employer retention programs. So that is in the form of like additional perks at work, paying for like trips or vacations, additional paid time off, and in some cases, $75,000 one-time sign-on bonus. But obviously there are caveats to that where you would have to stay on working for the company for at least a year and a half and things like that. But it's crazy. I never knew that we had an actual shortage of pharmacists in the United States. David says the pharmacists don't work for the stores because they are paid more to work in hospitals and the settings are better. Ah, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that piece of information, David. The ABX girl says, Tom, you also need a master's degree to work as a PT. Jean says, hey Tom, there are shortages of all kinds, either human or resources will keep fueling inflation, right? No matter what the feds, it's not a true economic factor that can be solved through higher interest rates. Do you agree? No, I think it could definitely be solved through, I think if the Federal Reserve took more of a stance that like a Paul Volcker did, I think you would cause so much demand destruction that prices would have to come down. Right, but that's sort of the balancing act that the Fed is trying to do right now. They don't want to raise interest rates too much because they don't want to send us into recession and have a bunch of layoffs, right? But I think we're going to need to make an ultimatum. I mean, the good news is you're starting to see inflation come down a little bit, right? So in the CPI report from yesterday, if you look at used cars, new cars are coming down a little bit. But guys, is it just me, or I think it's a little bit more noisy in the city than usual, or maybe it's just me. Who knows? Maybe I was in the office too long today. Hey, J Master says, man, I miss New Jersey, New York. Retired to South Carolina, and I'm bored. Oof. Yeah, it seems like more and more New Yorkers have been migrating to the Carolinas, but I think I would always want a place in New York. I think I would always want a place here. So everybody, we are right here on Avenue of the Americas. I know. Wendy England says, can you imagine doing that job jackhammering? I have so much respect for construction workers. It's like unbelievable. So I'll tell you not really a quick story, but I was at my old office downtown in Lower Manhattan. They were building a brand new hotel, and that whole winter I was able to watch the iron workers literally assemble the entire building. And when I tell you it was so frigid cold outside that I would even dread just waking up and going to work, these iron workers were 30 floors, 30 stories in the sky, with the wind whipping like unbelievable, doing their work. And I remember looking out the window, and I'm in my nice heated little office, and I'm like, I'm never going to complain about the cold ever again, ever. Those guys, I give them a ton of credit, construction workers. CT says, all my construction. Somebody says we watch. Yeah, let's try to go in a nice quiet spot. I think as we make our way down to the West Village or the East Village tonight, I think it's going to be a little bit quieter. Hey, Tori says, Tom, what are your plans for the weekend? Not too much. I think I'm just going to take it easy this weekend, to be honest. I think on Saturday I really want to sleep in. I think just sleep in and then read, catch up on some work. But everybody, here is the News Corporation building, home to Fox News, Wall Street Journal, and Investors Business Daily. You know, and not for nothing, I was actually listening into News Corporation's earnings report, and I think I told you guys this last night, but it's so interesting to compare the advertising revenue or the advertising growth from digital advertising revenue to print advertising. And still, print advertising makes up almost half of all the advertising revenue at News Corp still. I would have never guessed that at all. I would guess maybe 20%. I would never guess almost half. That is insane. CT says my construction friends. Lemonade says even women holding traffic signs at construction sites, I take my hats off. Oh, I do too. It's a tough, tough job, man. Really tough. Weston Mass Dave says, look at all the construction workers who built New York City throughout history. Yeah. Massive, massive respect. So the original iron workers in New York were actually Native Americans. Did anybody know that? There's really, really fantastic documentaries that you could watch for free on YouTube. That sorts of outlines the original iron workers that helped build this city. And Native Americans are really to thank for a lot of that. Hey, Mark Davis is here. Says, good evening, Tom. Hope all is well. Hello there from Toronto. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Wesley West is another area where not only FNC overlooks the New York's Fox station. CM says, the Wall Street Journal is not what it used to be. Yeah, a lot of people say the same thing about Investors Business Daily. I think there's still pretty good news sources, in my opinion. I think they're still pretty good. Ryan Royal says, Tom, I was a pharmacist technician for 10 years and we couldn't hire more staff when our RX volume was highest and administering COVID shots and running COVID tests. Man. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's not only exclusive to pharmacy, right? It seems like every major business out there is having a really, really hard time hiring and retaining employees. You know, sort of to stay on this topic of industries that are really, really paying out a lot of money to either, number one, recruit new employees or retain them, is trucking companies. So another article I was reading, it was actually in the Wall Street Journal again today, is that some major companies like Pepsi or PepsiCo, Walmart, are giving starting salaries to truck drivers of about $115,000, with sometimes $20,000 sign-on bonuses, because there's just a shortage of truck drivers. So I think anytime you have sort of these pockets of mispricing, I would say, in the marketplace, I think it opens up a really, really big area of opportunity, right? So maybe you're in college or maybe you're looking for a career change. I would really, really be cognizant and pay attention to these industry trends, because you never know. Maybe you'll get a 50% raise if you change industries. You know, go to an industry that's in really, really high demand, and maybe you'll find yourself with a nice retention bonus. Ryan Royal says, Tom, healthcare is not the best place to be right now. Our local hospital furloughed 300 plus staff in the middle of the pandemic. Wow. Yeah, well, I could imagine they probably furloughed a lot of the staff due to the, what is it called? The elective surgeries are probably not back to where they should be yet. But yeah, all good points. This is really interesting. Hey, Brian says, most pharmacists do not want to work at a place like Walgreens anyway. That is Walgreens' biggest problem. That's another good point. That's another good point, but it's not, I don't think it's exclusive to Walgreens. So the article was just talking about Walgreens because I believe they did an interview with the CEO and some of the initiatives they were rolling out. But I think the same thing applies to other pharmacies too. But I was just stunned when I saw that, stunned. Ed Dunkel says, supposedly highest salary with less stress. Good to see you, Ed Dunkel. The ABX girl's stepdad was a truck driver due to repetitive industries. He retired young. Many leave by 55. Oh, because their bodies can't take it. Wow. You know, ABX girl, I would never think about it like that. Well, I guess, you know, it does a toll on you if you sit down in a cab for an extended period of time. Especially during the pandemic, I was reading stories about truck drivers doing sometimes 10-hour shifts. Talk about, you know, potentially feeling delirious. But check this out. This is West 44th Street and 6th Avenue. We are overlooking the One Vanderbilt building. Looks beautiful lit up tonight. Hey, Con I Am is here. Welcome. Good to see you, Con I Am. MBA Elias is joining us. Hey, Tom, how are you? I hope you're having a good week. I'm having a pretty good week, MBA Elias. Having a pretty good week tonight. So I do want to just cover one really quick thing tonight on the stream. And that is, you know, I took some time to look through the, I guess I'll call it the new inflation bill that's coming out. And I think we touched on some important things yesterday, where we sort of broke it down, I would say probably over the past couple days as it relates to some different tax provisions, as it relates to carried interest. Is it going to be left alone? Is it not going to be left alone? What is carried interest? Is it bad or is it good? We sort of covered that the last couple nights on the stream. But tonight I want to talk about a very, very interesting provision that was proposed, and that's actually probably going to happen, to tax share buybacks or share repurchase programs. Man, check out that view of the Empire State Building here. Man, that looks really beautiful. So companies across the S&P 500 face taxes on share buybacks as Democrats added to the recent tax and spending legislation that did pass the Senate and is now headed into the House. It's a 1% excise tax on buybacks and a minimum 15% tax on large company profits that would fund climate programs and health programs. So essentially a 1% excise tax on share buybacks. Now, Goldman Sachs came out with a statement and said that if we move forward with these provisions to tax share buybacks, that on a per share basis, it would probably dent about, it would probably take 0.5% off of S&P 500 earnings if we went through with this program. So Chuck Schumer and some of the other senators, they've said that by taxing share buybacks, it's very possible that we will be able to collect $70 billion. I got to get away from this guy. About $70 billion over the next 10 years in additional tax income. So here's why I'm not in favor of taxing share repurchase programs and share buybacks. But before I say why, I think I'll sort of briefly explain what a share buyback is and why companies tend to do them or go forward with share repurchase programs. So if a company has excess cash on the balance sheet and they want to return value to shareholders, well, they can do that in one of two ways. So number one is the traditional way, which everybody knows is by issuing a dividend. So either the dividend is issued quarterly, so you get paid 4 times a year, or they will just take money that's on their balance sheet and buy back shares of their own stock. Now, the reason why many companies tend to buy back shares of their own stock is because it reduces the amount of shares outstanding. Thus, in turn, it will increase the amount of EPS or earnings per share, if that makes sense. And one of the main factors or characteristics is that we like to look for companies that are increasing their EPS or compounding out their earnings per share, at least 25% quarter over quarter or per annum. Now, there's also another implication why companies choose to issue share buyback programs as opposed to dividends, and those are tax implications, right? So if you issue a dividend, that is a taxable event. So let's say if I own Microsoft stock and I get paid a dividend
4 times a year. Well, I have to pay taxes on that dividend income, assuming it's in a taxable brokerage account or something like that. So it's not a very tax efficient way of returning value to shareholders. But with share buybacks, there's really no tax implications in there, because essentially you're just taking money on the balance sheet, buying stock, and so long as you don't sell that stock, you don't have to pay taxes on it. And I think politicians, not only on the right, but on the left as well, have noticed this growing trend over the past decade. And I believe, to quote Chuck Schumer, now I don't know what he said verbatim, but I'm going to paraphrase him here, but Chuck Schumer said, share buybacks are some of the most greedy and self-indulgent things that corporations can do. Instead, they should be using that money to invest in their business via research and development, increase wages for their employees, and the like. Now, I definitely understand and appreciate sort of Chuck Schumer's stance on things, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive. So if you look at the R&D budgets of Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, let me just cross the street here. I want to make sure we don't get knocked off. It's not like these companies are not investing in the research and development into their businesses, right? They are, and I think research and development budgets have actually continued to hit records year over year. So I think the government really needs to sort of rethink this, and I think if they really wanted to raise additional tax revenues, what they should have done is just gotten rid of the carried interest provision. But obviously, with big lobbying from private equity, big lobbying from hedge funds and venture capital firms, they did leave the carried interest provision in there, which allows large fund managers to pay a lower tax rate, which would be a capital gains tax rate. So we're keeping in the carried interest, but we are adding in the additional 1% tax on share buybacks, which I disagree with, but I do understand both sides of the argument there. Ed Dunkel says it basically means the company doesn't have any good ideas in how to grow their business. Not necessarily, but I do understand where that's coming from. That is actually a very good argument. So a lot of people will say, like to Ed's point, they'll say, hey, if you have all this money, you don't know what to do with it. You have so many billions of dollars of cash on the balance sheet. Why are you buying back your own stock? Why don't you raise your employees' salaries? Right? That's a good argument, what Ed says. Bob says, good evening, Walks on Wall Street, Tom. Welcome, Bob. I think where I'm a little bit on the fence here, and where I would argue to keep share buybacks, is because I think we have to understand the ramifications of everyday Americans' retirement funds, right? So if you receive a pension or something like that, well, check out this American flag here. Beautiful American flag there. Essentially, if we just look at the statistics here, and then I'll sort of go into my point. So to think about it on this ridiculous scale, so S&P 500 companies bought back about $281 billion worth of stock in Q1. That's up from about $199 billion in Q1 of 2020. That's really massive, but if we take it a step further, what's even more intriguing about this data is that the vast majority of share buybacks out of S&P 500 companies comes out of 27 companies, right? And I think we could pretty much guess as to what those companies are. I think it's pretty obvious. But if we think about over the last 10 years, actually I'll ask the group. I think this will be a fun little trivia question. So think back, everybody in the chat, and if you guys get this right, whoever gets it right first, I'll buy you like a coffee or something. Or I'll buy you a steak dinner if you ever meet me in New York City. So here's the question. Here's the trivia question of the night. So over the past 10 years, how much money, or how monetary value, we'll assign it, not the exact number of shares, have S&P 500 companies bought back? So over the last 10 years, S&P 500 companies bought back how much money in stock? Does anybody want to take a stab at it? So over the last 10 years, how much stock did S&P 500 companies buy back? Hey, NG, what's up? Okay, Gregory says 1 trillion. Okay, no. Michelle says 28 billion. 2 billion? No. This is in the trillions. I'll give you a hint. It's in the trillions. Autumn says 0. Chris is 435 billion. Nick says 10 trillion. So Nick is actually kind of close. I'll give you guys that hint. Nick is close. I'll give you guys another couple minutes. Gabrielle's, you're getting like, you're right on top of it. You're so close. $6.2 trillion. So over the last 10 years, S&P 500 companies bought back a combined $6.2 trillion. Think about how crazy that is. $6.2 trillion. And oftentimes on the stream, I'll share with you guys, one of the main criteria, well, maybe I shouldn't say main one, but one of the criteria that I look for when I look to purchase a company or a stock is, are they buying back, or how large are their share repurchase programs? Because at the end of the day, if you want the share price to appreciate, you're going to need buying power, right? So companies that go in there like Apple, like Microsoft, like Alphabet, they go back and buy their own stock. This reduces the overall float of existing shares on the market, thus increasing the earnings per share. Now, it's not the only reason why I look for companies to initiate share buyback programs, because I just want to say, I just want other people buying the stock. There's additional reasons for that. So usually when CEOs or any C-level executive at a company, or maybe it's even the board of directors, approves share repurchase programs, that can usually tell you some very key things about the underlying health of the business. And one of those things is, do you think that Apple would be buying back billions of dollars worth of their own stock if they thought that their business wasn't going to be doing very well? Probably not, right? If a company consistently issues dividends, increases their dividends, and increases their share buyback programs, well, that sends confidence to the investor that the C-suite thinks things are going pretty good. And if you look back over the last couple of years, what are the top 5 companies that have bought back the most stock by far? They've all been the mega cap tech stocks, like Microsoft, like Alphabet, Google, Meta. But guys, check this out, and Apple. But if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, and if you love this view of the Empire State Building, smash the like button and hit the subscribe button if you are new. But if we break it down by company level, 27 companies accounted for half of all the buybacks, with Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Bank of America rounding out the top 5. So Apple bought back about $91.3 billion worth of stock. Google bought back about $54.6 billion worth of stock. Meta bought back about $32 billion worth of stock. And then lastly, Bank of America bought back $21 billion worth of their own stock, if you could even believe that. And I think every single one of those companies but Meta is actually doing pretty well. I really hate calling Facebook Meta, but we have to now with the name change. Hey, Paul says, hey, Tom, what was on the dinner menu for tonight? As crazy as it sounds, I didn't even eat dinner yet. I was so busy, I did not have enough time to eat dinner. Two Wheel Freedom is here, says Bank of America has money. Good to see you. Jonathan Francis, how much did Twitter buy back? I'm actually not too sure. I'll have to look at the statistics on that. Probably not any. Hey, Autumn Beauty says, isn't Microsoft stock overvalued? Well, I guess it depends on which analyst you ask. Gregory says 9-6 Empire State Building. Wow. Gregory, I think I would argue that may be a little bit of a low score. I'm thinking the Empire looks more like maybe 9-9 from this angle. Empire State Building looks solid tonight. We are walking directly past the Macy's here at Herald Square. Austin City Limits is like, Tom, you need snacks with you. Yeah. You guys ever have one of those days where you're at the office and you have like the optimal amount of stress? So it's just busy enough to where you're a little bit stressed out, but the day goes by like in an instant. That was sort of one of the days I had today. The day flew by, but I never really got up off my chair. Hey, Bit of Wander is here. Says, hey all, what's up, Bit of Wander? Welcome. Jonathan Francis, great night to be out. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. Gregory says, I like it better when it's lit up with colors, but the classic white is also iconic. You know, I think I'm actually gonna have to agree with you there. NMB045 says, Tom, if a company doesn't buy back shares, does that signal the C-suite has low confidence? I would say so. So NMB045, to sort of piggyback off of what you were saying, as I was looking through the Inflation Reduction Act, they did exclude some companies from the buyback tax. Now, I shouldn't say they excluded companies specifically, but if a particular company buys back $1 million worth of stock or less, you don't have to pay the tax. But then again, who buys back only $1 million worth of stock? That's like nothing. So I think it's, I don't even know why they threw that in there. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, Senator Chuck Schumer, through their analysis, I'm not sure what analysis they did, but they think over the next 10 years, this should raise an additional $70 billion to be used on climate initiatives, to be used on healthcare and education. But I actually think they could raise a lot more money by getting rid of carried interest and leaving the buybacks alone. But you guys know the reason why they won't do that is because private equity firms, venture capital, hedge funds, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Not just millions, hundreds of millions lobbying our politicians so they can keep the carried interest provision. Now, if you'd ask me, I understand and I would actually want to keep carried interest. But if everybody's really going to get all upset about it and we want additional tax revenues to really go towards healthcare, now I'm all for it. And you guys know me, I've said this many times. I have no problem paying additional taxes, but I have almost zero trust in our government to distribute that capital in an appropriate way. I do not believe that the government is an efficient capital allocator, but that's just my opinion. Now, I'm very, very traditional here. I'm like, look, no taxation without representation. So if you're going to tax us more and you cannot guarantee that we're going to be getting better services, that we're going to be getting better health care, if you can't guarantee that, then there's no more taxes to be had for you. That's sort of how I operate. But here's what I would have done with the carried interest provision. I would have met somewhere in the middle and said, look, the maximum capital gains tax that these private equity firms can pay right now is 20%. Just raise it up to 22% and call it a day. There's no need to add any of this accounting nightmare that's going to be happening from taxing share buybacks. It's just going to add more overhead costs for these corporations, and it's going to be a nightmare. So what I would propose is, if everybody's upset that these large private equity firms, hedge funds, are not paying the top tier tax bracket, which is roughly 37%, because they don't get paid off of an income tax, they get paid from capital gains tax, well then just raise it from 20 to 22, right? Raise the top amount, or the highest amount that they could get taxed, raise it to 22%. There's your 2% right there. There's no need to create a whole other system and fog everything up. But anyway, that's just me. Hey, Bob, says Tom, I'm for universal health care and my sis just got a new job, but has to wait 3 months until her employer will cover her. Wow. Well, congrats on the new job, Bob. That's awesome. Autumn Beauty says, Tom, we get taxed 3 times in New York City. That's true. Yeah, when I used to work in Manhattan, I used to have to, or live in Manhattan, I used to pay the New York City tax as well. Does anybody know what this thing is? Yeah, Mike C is like, stop making sense. Yeah, if only. Hey, Brad's Brain is here. Welcome, Brad. Good to see you. Western Mass Dave says, Tom, while at work, do you take a break and walk a little bit? Sometimes. It depends on how busy I am that day. It really just depends on how busy I am that day.
Tonight I'm up here.
But in general, I like to take a break maybe 15 minutes at a time. You know, for anybody that wants a productivity hack, I'll give you guys a productivity hack that's been working really, really well for me. If you can sit down with no distractions and work full blast, and I mean like really work, not checking your phone, checking Twitter, nothing. Like actually sit down in one shot and work for 15 minutes and then take a break and then take a 10-minute break, you're gonna get more done in that 15 minutes than you would supposedly working for an hour, trust me. If you force yourself to do really, really deep work for 15-minute intervals at a time, you're gonna be so much more productive. So much more productive. Yeah, Western Mass Dave is like, keep that blood moving, Tom. Good to see you, Dave. So this is West 32nd Street, otherwise known as Korea Way. Hey, Frank James English is Detroit, Flint. We pay income tax as well, and it's a pain. NMB 045 says perhaps the lawmakers are thinking an increase in cap gains tax won't generate that much revenue. Well, I think it will. I think it would, because if you just add another tax in a different area, it's just going to add more, I would say, bureaucracy within organizations, right? You're going to have to hire more accountants. You're going to have to hire more lawyers. You're going to have to create new departments within not only government, but in the private sector to deal with all of these new taxes, instead of just meeting in the middle and just raising it a couple points on the cap gains. CM says too many distractions in the office. I get that one, I understand that. But check out this view here, everybody, of the Empire State Building. I think this is one of my favorite views, located right here in Koreatown. But in other news, Disney did report earnings. Did anybody see Disney's earnings report? So I was so blown away by Disney's earnings report. They reported profits of about $1.41 billion in Q3, or 77 cents a share, up from about $918 million or 50 cents a share last year. Now, record sales of about $7.4 billion at the experiences and product division, which is Disneyland. So think about that for a minute. Disney had all-time record sales at their parks division. So like Disneyland, Disney World, I think they have also a couple other parks in Asia and the like. And their CEO came on the earnings report. You know what they said? They said, we absolutely do not see any demand abating here at all. And we had record revenue in our parks department, and we're not even operating at 100% capacity. So think about that. So I think this is an interesting discussion to have for two reasons. The first reason is, could you imagine if Disney actually opens up their parks to operate at full capacity? How much higher the earnings would be, how much higher the revenue would be? And number two, what is this saying about the American consumer, right? As we watch the news and we're told that everybody's hurting and everybody is, cutting back on spending, Disney World is saying the exact opposite. They just had a record quarter in Q3 where they had the highest amount of spending in their parks ever. So what does this tell us about the health of the US consumer? Pretty interesting. Hey, Penelope is here. What's up, Penelope? Welcome. Good to see you. I think we'll walk down this way, and I want to show you guys Take 31 again. We haven't been over by Take 31 in quite a while. Autumn Beauty says, hey Tom, do you ever get tired in New York City? Do you feel like you need a break? Not usually, but I split my time between Miami and New York City, so About half the time I'm in Miami, Florida, half the time I'm in New York. But I love New York. I love Miami. I think these are two great places to be. Ooh, Dennis Henry, that's a good point. So Dennis's, but much of it is being put on credit cards, perhaps, but do you really think people would overextend themselves and take their family on a trip to Disney World if they couldn't afford it? I don't know. I've never been there, so I don't know. Wow. So Mike C says, Tom, parked at Disneyland, California is $35 per car now, just to park. Della's Lifestyle says Disney Plus is, oh yeah, they raised the price on Disney Plus too, you're right. Gregory says Netflix will die if every other company removes their stuff from there. Yeah, so Gregory, I think this quarter for Disney is the first quarter that they actually surpassed Netflix in terms of subscribers to their subscription service. So competition in the streaming industry in general is so crowded and so tough. And I believe the only business segment for Disney that was not profitable was the streaming sector. I think they lost over $2 billion in their streaming sector. Check this place out, everybody. Isn't this a little unique sort of outdoor dining area? It almost looks like, yeah, it's a trolley, I believe. Yeah, Jonathan Francis like, Tom, Disney beat out Netflix. Jane M says Vegas is cheaper than Disney. Yeah, Western Mass Dave says people are using credit cards for essentials, probably not Disneyland trips. I would agree. Alex L says Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Ltd is considering establishing offices in New York and London, says Alex L. Thank you for that, Alex. Yeah, Melissa's like, that's so great. You know, here's the unfortunate thing about the outdoor dining huts like these. So I was reading an article in the New York Post, and supposedly the city is going to mandate all of the restaurants to take down the outdoor dining, unfortunately. Did anybody else read that? Because not in all cases, but in many cases, there's been some nefarious activity going on and inappropriate behavior going on after hours in the outdoor dining booths. You have homeless people, unfortunately, doing drugs and other things. So there's been a big outcry in New York City to actually take down those outdoor dining units. Did anybody else see those articles? Maybe photos from around New York, maybe you saw it or something like that? Hey, British Gray is here. What's up? Good to see you. British Gray says, Tom, Disney World in Orlando, Florida is $165 to get in. The parking is $50. Wow. Well, they're definitely raking in the cash, that's for sure. The only segment they lost money on was the streaming sector. But maybe it's one of those things that they're trying to grow at all costs just to beat out Netflix. A lot of the times companies will run unprofitable businesses just to generate market share, or they'll give away a product or service for free just to generate users. You know, we're seeing the same exact thing with Microsoft Teams. Does anybody use Microsoft Teams as opposed to Slack? You know, if you look at the user growth and the user adoption of Microsoft Teams, it's almost triple that of Slack. And that's probably because Slack is now acquired by Salesforce and you have to pay for it. And Microsoft Teams, I believe, comes included with the Microsoft suite of products. Hey, Yu Wu says Fortune 50 using Teams only. Wow. So I will tell you this, in my last company, it was so strange. We used Slack and we used Teams. But then again, our company was going through M&A activity at the time. So I think my old company only uses Slack now. But what I'm doing now, we're using Microsoft Teams as well. Hey, Fazita is here. Says we use Teams, Microsoft Teams. All right, we got a lot of. This is a big team shop here. Hey, Average Joe is here. Says hey Tom, a New Yorker here watching from Buenos Aires, Argentina. What a beautiful evening. New York is back from COVID. Cheers, man. Thanks a lot. Awesome, dude. So speaking of Argentina, I think they opted to raise interest rates by 850 basis points. Did anybody hear about that? I believe Argentina raised interest rates 850 basis points today. Brad's Brain says we use Teams many times a day in meetings. But Average Joe, thank you so much. Mike says the city blaming outdoor dining kiosks for increase in rats. Yeah, so that's another good point, Mike. The city has been doing that because I believe if you look at the 311 complaints for rats around the city, they've almost tripled since 2019. And the city's like, no, it's the outdoor dining. It's nothing that we're doing, it's the outdoor dining. But if you guys go to this restaurant, which is on 31st Street, it is called Take 31. It is by far one of the best Korean restaurants in New York City. So I would definitely recommend coming here or going to the restaurant right next to it, which is Her Name is Han, which they are owned by the same owner, and they are both fantastic. Rosa says we use Cisco WebEx. So WebEx is a Cisco product. So I will say I cannot stand Cisco WebEx. I've had very bad experiences with it, mainly because a lot of the times when I use these video conferencing software tools, I have to do demos, and it's very difficult to screen share and show customers our product. I found with Cisco WebEx. Autumn says, hey Tom, I don't know what Slack is. So Slack is sort of like a collaboration tool. So actually Slack used to be a publicly traded company under the ticker symbol WORK, but now Slack is actually acquired by Salesforce under the ticker CRM. UWU says, LOL, WebEx was so slow with opening up meetings. Yeah, WebEx is, I think the UI is horrible, but you know, you'd be surprised. A lot of larger companies still are Cisco shops, so they use WebEx. Hey, Anthony says, Tom, my company started using Teams last year, and I think it works very well. I agree. Yeah, I think Microsoft is at the point where they're so massive, they're just willing to, you know, burn money to just dominate and acquire market share. So when I get home or when I get back on the train, I want to show you guys this chart of the adoption curve of Microsoft Teams as opposed to Slack. But this is the One Vanderbilt building here, very nice. Brad's Brain says, honestly, it seems gross to me to eat on the sidewalk, outdoor deck, etc. Is it just a table on the sidewalk? I could see how it could draw rats. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's not for everybody. I will say, Brad, that some of the outdoor dining facilities here in New York are actually really nice. Like, they make them really nice, but others are not doing too good. And I would say the biggest problem that is resulted from the outdoor dining is after hours when the restaurants close. There's been a lot of articles in CNN and Fox News and in the New York Post saying that tenants in buildings very close to outdoor dining facilities, after hours, they see homeless people doing, not so good things there. But this is my absolute recommendation for everybody. You gotta come here to Take 31. It is one of the greatest Korean restaurants in the entire New York City. So you have to come here. It is absolutely fantastic. I'll show you guys the menu. And if you want to come here, it's on West 31st Street. Hey, February's here, says, hey Tom, how's it going? To explore videos is Microsoft Teams for one person based on security, Zoom for general meetings, Discord, voice for some YouTube groups. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Although for some reason I could never get the hang of Zoom. Here's what I hate about Zoom, I'll tell you guys. I cannot stand punching in like the PIN code numbers and all that stuff for Zoom. Because here's the thing, I'll have a client or something send me a meeting maker, and I'm on my phone and I have to flip back and forth between my email to copy and paste the PIN code to enter the meeting. And it is so cumbersome, it's horrible. So that's why I can't stand Zoom. I actually detest it. Melissa says, it's been 4 years since being in the city, making my heart ache. Thanks for the stroll, thank you so much. Melissa, appreciate it. Yeah, we do these live streams about 5 days a week. So if you want to join us in the future, click the subscribe button and leave a like on the video if you're new. But check out this view of the Empire State Building, everybody. This is 31st Street and 5th Avenue. This is like a 9 out of 9, if that. This is like a 9 out of 9 right here. Hey, Mike Skate TV, what's up? Good to see you. Penelope is here from Tennessee, welcome. Yeah, somebody says perfect angle for the Empire. Agreed. So we'll make our way down towards Madison Square Park. I want to make sure we're on time. I think we're still running good timing, everybody. We're going to head towards the East Village. I think the East Village is absolutely going to be on fire tonight. You guys are going to have a really, really good time checking out the East Village tonight on the stream. Hey, Arsenal fan 13 says that view never gets old. Arsenal, good to see you. So Arsenal is our real estate guy in the chat. I think Arsenal fan works in commercial real estate. Always a pleasure to see you, man. So Arsenal fan, if you're just joining, one of the topics that we were talking about today is obviously yesterday we were talking about the CPI numbers, and if you look at one of the line items on the CPI report, that is shelter costs, right? It makes up about 1/3 of the CPI, and the shelter increased about 5.1% year over year. Turns out today, breaking news from CNN Business, we get a new report that Manhattan rent again for the 6th consecutive month in a row went up. And the average cost for an apartment on the island of Manhattan is now well over $5,000 at $5,113 to be exact. And median rent has now surpassed $4,500, if you could believe that. So rents are going off the rails here. The good news, I guess, if we could sort of talk about good news, is that we're seeing two main sectors, or two main, I would say, catalysts that make inflation worse actually come down. That's energy and supply chains are healing, so that's good. But the two main things that are really, really driving inflation, in my opinion, which is shelter costs continue to go up, not only on a month-over-month basis, but on a quarter-over-quarter basis. And number two, wage gains, right? Wage pressures. So employers or employees actually made about a 0.5 percentage point more than they did last month. Now that may be good, but if you look in nominal terms or real terms, factoring in after inflation, real wages are actually down, unfortunately. So, but I want to cross the street so you guys can get another good view of the Empire. Hey, Disney Matt says, good evening, Tom. Disney Matt, what a coincidence, man, because we were actually just talking about Disney's earnings report. They reported earnings a few days ago, and Disney reported record revenue at their parks department. So revenue at Disneyland, Disney World recorded record revenues. And here's the crazy thing. Their CEO came on the conference call and said, we reported record revenue in our parks department despite not operating at 100% capacity. We're still on COVID restrictions. So the demand for consumers is so high. And that goes in stark contrast to what everything we're hearing about in the news. Hey, Dr. Longus is here, says, hey, Tom. Josie is here. What's up, Josie? Line Sync. Peter Webley says that rent is for market rate apartments. Most New York City residents don't pay market rate. Yeah, that's true. So I think Peter Webley makes a great point, and we were exploring this a little bit a while ago as well, is that I think if you look at the average rental price, it's a little bit misleading, right? Especially in a big city like Manhattan. Obviously, you're going to have neighborhoods like Billionaires Row really skew those statistics, as opposed to a place up near Washington Heights or in East Harlem or something like that. To give you guys a little bit of anecdotal data here, I actually just finished moving my friend into a one-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, right off of Broadway in the 80s. And for a one-bedroom, he's paying about $3,400 a month. So obviously significantly less than what we're seeing in all the mainstream media outlets that gets everybody pretty scared. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, for a one-bedroom, $3,400, still pretty expensive. Hey, Real Talk New York says, what's up, bro? Good to see you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. G-Shep says, the view of the Empire State on Fifth Avenue is epic. Agreed. Basketball It Up says, do you think there will be another e-car other than Tesla? Well, I think there's many, right? I think there's many EVs. And one of the other things that we were talking about yesterday as it relates to the Inflation Reduction Act is they extended the tax credit, the $7,500 tax credit for new and used EV purchases. Here's the problem. They put an income cap on the tax credit, and they capped the tax credit to EVs that cost $55,000. Now, what EV costs 55 grand, right? So I think that's more of a smoke and mirrors, dog and pony show, as opposed to anything else. In my opinion, if you really want to entice Americans to buy an EV, there should be no income cap, and there should be no price cap on the EV. But regardless, that's just my opinion. But check this view out, everybody. I think this may be my favorite one. I may have to revise my statements here. Wow, RR or Rare Bear says, Tom, $3,400 a month is still double my 2,500 square foot house in upstate New York. The city is fun, but man, I can't imagine paying that rent. Dude, I'm with you, dude. Trust me, I agree with you. I think it's crazy. I think it's nuts. Things are going off the rails. But at the end of the day, people want to be in New York. There's a lot of high-paying jobs in New York. So one of the theories that we've had here in the chat, and it's actually been, I wouldn't say it's proven wrong just yet, but it looks like it's going to be proven wrong, is that as remote work becomes more accepted, generally accepted, not only on Wall Street, but in tech, people are going to decide to work from wherever they want. But it seems like if you're young, if you're just graduating college or something like that, people want to be in big cities. People want to be in New York. People want to be in Miami, which are still driving up the rents. Of my friends who work on Wall Street and my friends who work in tech, the only ones that are really moving to the suburbs are my friends who are already married with kids because they want a backyard, they want additional bedrooms, things like that. But it's a good point, man. You make a good point. Hey, Two Explores Videos says VinFast from Vietnam has a factory in North Carolina for EVs. Melissa says the clouds make it eerie beautiful. I agree. Wesley West says there used to be a decline in living in New York just last year. Hey, Cosmo Scary says, remember when people said New York was dead forever in 2020? I absolutely do, Cosmo. I absolutely do. So when everybody said, to Cosmo Scary's point, if you also, if you haven't checked out Cosmo Scary, please check our friend Cosmo Scary out. While everybody was running and panicking away from the city in 2020 during COVID, I was able to score a deal of a lifetime. I rented an apartment right on Central Park South, overlooking Central Park, for just under $2,000. I mean, that's impossible to do. That'll never happen again. But that is when, if I had the money at the time, I wish I had enough money to buy, I would have probably made like, $500,000 on anything I bought. But At the time, I just could not afford to buy in New York, but I was able to rent a really, really nice apartment right at Central Park South during COVID with a Central Park view, and that same apartment that I used to rent is now renting for $4,500 a month. So just for context there, Cosmo is absolutely correct. A lot of people panicked. It was wild here. It was really, really wild here in 2020. Lion Singh says Tom is definitely a de facto unofficial international ambassador of the Empire State Building. I appreciate that. You know, if you guys want to help me out, if you guys have Twitter, if you follow @WalksWallStreet, tell the Empire State Building to follow me on Twitter. I think that'd be pretty cool. Nick says the supermoon is here tonight. Ooh, dude, we have to check out the moon tonight. Let me look for it. Arsenal fan says $3,400 is a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment here in a good part of DC. Manhattan seems mind-blowingly expensive. It really is mind-blowingly expensive. And Miami, Florida is also mind-blowingly expensive. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's up? This is New York City residents. What New York City neighborhood would you live in if money was no objection? Or money was no object. So if I didn't have to worry about money and I could pick anywhere to live, Central Park South, 59th Street, Central Park South. What about you guys? If I could pick anywhere to live in New York and money wasn't an issue, I think it would be Central Park South. Yeah, I'm gonna say Central Park South. All right, I'll give you my top 3. Let's do top 3. In the chat, everybody give me your top 3. I think this will be fun. So here's my top 3. Number 1, Central Park South. Number 2, it would be 5th Avenue, right near St. Patrick's Cathedral. Because if you're right there near 50th Street, right near St. Patrick's, Rockefeller Center, you're gonna get a crazy view if you're on a really high floor. You're gonna see the Empire State Building and you're also gonna see the World Trade Center. And third choice would be all the way downtown in Lower Manhattan because I wanna see the view of the Brooklyn Bridge, Manhattan Bridge, and the World Trade Center. So those are my top 3. Hey, Williams says, good evening, Tom from Los Angeles. I would choose Roosevelt Island. All right, Roosevelt Island's nice. It's a little bit secluded, but I like it. Ooh, NBA Elias is Soho, West Village, and Tribeca. Dude, I want to rephrase my choices now and put Soho in there. But no takebacks, so I locked mine in. Hey, Real Talk says Truth, good to see you. So we're overlooking Madison Square Park right now. Absolutely beautiful night in the city. It's one of my favorite buildings here. Ooh, Jonathan Francis, Central Park West. Tin Man says East 76 between Madison and 5th. That's really, really Wall Street bougie up there. That's awesome. Connor says, are you going to the East or West Village tonight? I think we're going to go to the East Village tonight, everybody. We're going to check out the East Village. Marcy says, I don't live in New York City anymore, but I'd choose the West Village. Love that. Herbert says, Tom, stop by 15 Central Park West. Great New York City building. Herbert, we will stop by 15 Central Park West tomorrow, I promise. Today we're just so far away from it, but I agree. 15 Central Park West is actually, used to be home to Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter. I think the CEO of Goldman Sachs at the time, Lloyd Blankfein, used to have a place there, or he may still have a place there. But 15 Central Park West is actually, I think it's adjacent the Trump International Hotel and Tower, if I'm not mistaken. But beautiful building, I agree 100%. Two Harbors at Billionaires Row. Yeah, so like Central Park South, Billionaires Row place. Agreed. All right, so here we are at the Flatiron Building. This is one of my favorite buildings in New York City. Unfortunately, there's all the scaffolding here. Let me see if I missed anybody's comment. Ooh, FredEx is 12th and 5th Avenue in 1985. Love that. Hey, Gary is here. Welcome. So there's another good view of the Empire right here. Beautiful. Paul says Park Slope, Bryant Park, and Central Park West. NBA Elias says, in your view, Tom, what is considered the worst neighborhood in New York? I don't think I want to say that because I'm going to get so much blowback. Because I think it just really depends on where you want to live, right? I think everybody's different. But I wouldn't, like, the last place I would want to live, and not to knock any of those, like the last two boroughs, not to say that those places are bad, it's just not my personal preference. Solo Priest is Brownsville. So back in the day, I actually used to work in East New York, Brooklyn. So I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but a lot of the home health care agencies in New York City are being built in East New York, places like that. So East New York, the northernmost part of East New York is actually getting a teeny bit better. It is definitely known as a very dangerous place, as well as Brownsville, Brooklyn. So I used to actually take the Long Island Railroad, get off at Nostrand Avenue, and walk all the way up. What was that? Where did I walk to? Think. I'm blanking on the name. But anyway, I would walk up that main drag there all the way to, not Marcy Avenue. It'll come to me. It'll come to me. Gates Avenue, that was it. So I used to work right there on the corner of Gates Avenue, if anybody's familiar with Brooklyn, right under the train, right on the train station. Worked there for many years. I did some consulting there. And not for nothing, everybody, I'll give you if you want to know a real, like, New York place to go that, like, tourists would never go, some of the best food I've ever had in my life is in East New York. There's a lot of Dominican food, all just types of food that I've never really been accustomed to or never had before. Obviously, being Irish, Italian, families from Long Island, I'm not used to that type of food, but when I worked in East New York area, fantastic type of food. Also, so there was Dominican food, and there was also another one that I really, really liked. I'm really horrible with the names tonight. I'll think about it. Western Mass Dave, good to see you. This is for 22, highly impressive. Okay, I'll tell you the type of the cuisine, and then you guys have to tell me where it comes from. I had a lot of oxtail, and that was the first time I ever had oxtail was there in East New York. But I'm blanking on the name of the food or the culture it comes from. Hey, AP is here. This is Tom. Thank you for bringing me back to New York City from the comfort of my bed. Appreciate it. West Indian food. Yes, that's it. That's what it is. West Indian food. Thank you. West Indian food. Never had it before. The first time I had it was there. And I may have to make a trip all the way out there to get it again. But yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, so Real Talk Jerk Chicken, I had that as well. That was good. Not for nothing, there's actually a lot of really good jerk chicken places in Miami, Florida too. So the neighborhood that I moved into, there's the vast majority of the population there is Haitian and Jamaican. So I've been going to all types of places that I'm not really used to going to, and it was really good. Prudy's is the Dominican food is the best. Yeah, that's the first time I had Dominican food as well, is in Brooklyn. So Anthony's. So a good pizza place in Brooklyn is DeFara. And I used to go there when we used to play games at Brooklyn College, or we would just visit friends that would go to Brooklyn College and we'd go there. Editor information to show the books in the window. Okay, we're gonna go to Strand. I just want to make sure we make it to the East Village on time, everybody. Usually the battery dies before then. Ooh, Real Talk says you gotta try Peruvian food, it's the best. I'll definitely do that. So if you got, hey, FredX is here. What's up? Good to see you, FredX. Welcome. If you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We usually do these about 5 days a week between New York City and Miami. Gary says, Tom, you should come down to North Carolina. We have good food here. I've been to South Carolina, not North Carolina. Apologies. So I like where the stream is going. We're off topic, but I actually like it. So I think we should continue this. So I told you guys, I went to Austin, Texas about 2 months ago. And there's this barbecue restaurant in Austin. It's called Terry Black's. Has anybody been or anybody has heard of it? If not, if you haven't heard of it, I mean, whoa. It's really expensive, but it's worth it. So Austin, Texas, place called Terry Black's. It is by far one of the best places I've ever been to in my life. Has anybody ever been? Hey, Denise says my son lives in Austin. Great town. Great little town. Booming too. Booming town. A lot of tech startups moving to Austin. Bagels and Walks is like Austin is incredible food. Agreed. Hey, NMB045 says, Tom, I'll be in Los Angeles next week. Come by and say hi. Yeah, I'll take a trip out to. Oh, that's what everybody's looking at, everybody. So supposedly the full moon is tonight, but look at how unlucky we are tonight. We got a massive cloud, literally right where the full moon is supposed to be. Pixelogic, what's up? Good to see you. What a bummer. All right, let's, ooh, I think it's gonna come out right now. Hold on. We'll give it a minute. We'll give it a minute. Oh, David Randall's like Terry Black's is great. Dude, I was so impressed, man. I think if we walk down a little bit, maybe we'll be able to see it from 14th Street. So what is it called, everybody? It's called the Blood Moon or something tonight? What is the actual, ooh, that makes me want to get on the skateboard so bad. No, NBA Elias is a good question. But sometimes, you know, if I say like, oh, this is the worst neighborhood, and then somebody lives there, they're like, what? You said my neighborhood was the worst? I mean, to each its own. I think a lot of neighborhoods in New York have their different character. People like different ones, different places. FredEx, as it's called, the Walks in Wall Street moon. Hilarious. Hilarious. So for those of you guys who are just joining tonight, we went over share buybacks. Check out this guy. Love that. We were talking about one of the provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act that was going to tax share buybacks by 1%. So we reviewed exactly what share buybacks were, why we should be paying attention to this, what the ramifications are going to be from taxing share buybacks, and alternatives of what they could do besides share buybacks. We also were talking about the specific companies in the S&P 500 who buy back the most stock. Obviously that is number one being Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Google. And over the past 10 years, think about how crazy this statistic is. Over the past 10 years, S&P 500 companies have bought back a combined $16.2 trillion worth of stock over the last 10 years. It's no wonder why the government wants to start to tax it. We also talked about a new crisis. Seems like there's a new crisis every day in America, but yes, we do have another one. And that crisis is the shortage of pharmacists. Yes, there is a shortage of pharmacists in the United States, to which Walgreens is putting out a statement. If we hire you as a pharmacist, if you apply and you get hired, we're going to give you a $75,000 sign-on bonus. But most actually wind up getting $40,000 to $50,000. Super Diddy 555 says Terry Black's is awesome. 4-generation owners, great food, love the high ceilings, a must in Austin. You know what was my favorite part about Terry Black's? This may surprise you guys. My favorite part about Terry Black's by far was not eating the food, it was the actual tour of where they cook the food. So if you ask them, they'll give you a tour of all their smokers, all of the equipment where they cook the briskets, the sausages, everything. I was blown away. There's nothing like that in New York at all. It's an experience for sure. It's an experience for sure. So Terry Black's all the way, I love it. Hey, Cooking says, I heard the pharmacists are very, very overworked. Definitely they are. I agree. Hey, Western Mass Dave says no spam tonight, good decision. Yeah, so it seems like the stuff that we've been putting in place have been working to reduce the spam. So it's good news. Somebody says, Tom, what are you recording on? So we are recording on an iPhone 13 mini. But we're gonna put a little bit more pep in our step now. And we're gonna go down to the East Village before my phone dies, because hopefully as we walk further downtown, we won't get hit by this cab and we'll be able to see the full moon. So that's my goal for you guys on tonight's stream, is to see this full moon in action. Hopefully the clouds will subside. Football says, hey Tom, can you take us to Times Square? Not tonight, my friend. Unfortunately, we are going to the East Village. But if you check out last night's stream, we were there. Sam says, you must have a gimbal for your phone. Yeah, we do. So we are using a gimbal as a stabilizer, you're right. Real quick, this is the Strand bookstore. This is one of my favorites. However, in the East Village, they actually have the East Village bookstore, which I think is actually better than this place. And I told you guys, wow, check out that view of the Empire. I told you guys that I was able to get an original copy of Reminiscences of a Stock Operator right there at East Village Books. An original copy. I think it's worth a couple $100. And it was right there at East Village Bookstore. Hey, Denise says the streams are addictive. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to stop for a water break really quick, and then we'll continue on. So bear with us, everybody. Okay, quick water break. Also, anybody who's new to the stream, we do have topics. We always talk about finance and the like. If you want to support the stream in a free way, if you scan the QR code on your screen, you will be brought to a landing page where you can sign up for my free investing newsletter. It's called Behind the Street. So every other Tuesday, we will send an email that covers not only the US equity markets, but emerging markets. We cover real estate, fixed income, and the like. So if you want to stay up to date and a cool free way to support the stream and stay connected, scan this QR code and you will get all of my equity research for free. And pretty soon we will be launching on Product Hunt. So keep that in mind. So once again, if you scan the QR code, every other Tuesday after the market closes. I was supposed to send it out this Tuesday, but I wrote the entire thing and it got deleted. It was very heartbreaking, but we're moving on and we're just going to write it again. Hey, Andy is here from South Korea. Good to see you, Andy. Hope you're well. So Andy, a friend of mine actually just got back from Jeju Island. I'm sure you're familiar with Jeju Island. It's supposedly one of the most beautiful places in Korea. Has anybody on the stream been at Jeju Island before?
It is. Then it's like, okay, we want to run this pilot program.
Hey, Kes, this is Tom. Just done it. Thank you so much. Keisha M, I appreciate it. Cooking says, do you do these streams right after work? I do. So usually I'm working till about, to be realistic, usually right about 7. And then I try to take a break, eat something, prepare for the stream, I'll go back over my notes. But for the past couple of days, it's been really busy here. So I've been essentially getting off of work at 8 and going right to streaming. So I still haven't eaten dinner yet, so I gotta get some food. But we'll get some food in me pretty soon. Autumn Beauty, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, Sean says, hey, Tom from Nova Scotia, Canada. So is it pronounced Sean or Sean? But good to see everybody from Nova Scotia. Western Mass Dave says, Tom, how do you do it all? I don't know, I think if I didn't stream, it would be, I think streaming increases my productivity. After work, if you bang out, 8-9 miles, it gets the blood flowing. I think it helps your cognitive ability to retain information. And surprisingly, you guys would be surprised, streaming has actually been a really, really good networking platform for me. I've met a lot of amazing people. You guys are fantastic. So, yeah, I love it. And lastly, everybody, tonight we also covered Disney's earnings. A little bit of breaking news from the earnings report. Disney is now larger by subscribers than Netflix. So Disney has now, in terms of their streaming service, has surpassed more subscriber base than Netflix. But if we talk about profitability, the single segment of Disney that is still unprofitable by a large margin is their streaming service. However, their parks department was extremely, extremely profitable, and it was extremely profitable all while they were not operating at full capacity. So they had record revenue in the quarter at their theme parks. And the CEO comes on the earnings call and says, well, I don't know if this guy's following me or we're just going to the same place coincidentally. So even though they had record revenue, record profitability at their theme parks, they're still operating under capacity. That's the money shot right here, guys. Check out the full moon, amazing. Wow. So once we get past this street lamp here, I think it's gonna look a lot better. Cooking, yes. I just like to stay away from people. So let's walk over a couple avenues, and I think that I think we're gonna see a really nice view of this. Let me just turn my brightness all the way down. All right, we're good. I think we're solid. We're on 30%. So we're gonna be able to make our way and see the full moon. So this is 4th Street. And in this building is actually the IBM Watson unit of IBM. Now, IBM actually sold off their healthcare unit of Watson. So IBM Watson Healthcare was actually sold off. And it's funny because back in the day, I actually interviewed for a position as an enterprise account executive with a vertical focus to healthcare for the IBM Watson unit. I guess looking back, it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't take the job, or I would have probably been laid off. But in any event, it is there. Wow, guys, check this out. I want a fair and balanced rating in the chat, no bias. What do you think about this full moon on a scale of 1 to 10? No bias. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go 8-9. I think it's just because there's a lot of street lights. I'm gonna go 8-9. I think it's just because there's some street lights here. Wendy England coming in hot with the 10. Wow. Trace is 11. MBA Elias 9. Okay, so close, pretty close. I think it would be a 10 if we were a little bit more secluded from the street lights. So let me try to walk further east just so we don't get a lot of the light pollution, but it still looks beautiful. I think you guys are right, but I think those scores are coming in a little hot. Hey, Mac Jack is here, says 9-9. Yeah, Grand Street 1 says 8, but it looks better from my terrace. I could imagine street level is probably not ideal for something like this. But this is St. Mark's Place, which is really considered like a college town for the NYU students, things like that. Some news out of NYU, I think we went over this, but the very famous coursework from Professor DeModern at the NYU School of Business will be offered online this semester, which I think is really good. So if anybody's interested in learning about really, really deep fundamental securities analysis, corporate finance, you do have the opportunity now to take that course online through NYU. Additionally, if you don't have the money, obviously, to shell out a couple $1,000s for the coursework, the good news is that all of that information is actually for free online. Professor DeModern is such a good guy that he'll actually record a lot of the lecture or the coursework and put it on his YouTube channel for free. So if you check out his YouTube channel, you'll be able to actually go step by step through all of the coursework in corporate finance and securities analysis, and it'll be free. You won't get that information and use it to better yourself and your investments, to understand corporate balance sheets a little bit better. So good news all around on that front. So back in my college days, I used to skateboard around here all the time. I'll give you guys a little bit of a view of what the East Village looks like. Hey, Carol618 says, hello from Southern Illinois, going to be in New York City for a week or so, but only for about 2 days and nights before going to Boston. Any New York City must-dos? We are staying near Madison and 54th. Okay, Carol, I'm gonna give you a very, very good restaurant to go to. And it may sound like I'm coming off biased because it's my friend's restaurant, but it's not biased, trust me. So you gotta go to Chelsea Market and go to the restaurant is called Mel's, M-E-L-S. It's really, really good. Now, I think I'm probably gonna explain it in a very, very poor way. So I think you just have to Google it and look at the menu for yourself, because it's a pizza shop or a place, but it's not a pizza place. Like it's an experience. It's fantastic. So if you just Google Mel's, M-E-L-S, and Chelsea Market, look at the pictures, review the menu, and I would recommend going there. It's a little bit pricey, but it's an experience. Additionally, if you want to go to a good Italian restaurant, you got to go to a place called Becco, B-E-C-C-O. That place is phenomenal. And that's right on Restaurant Row there, Becco. And lastly, the last recommendation I'll give you, everybody gets three. Everybody gets three. The last recommendation I would say is a Korean restaurant called Take 31. So Take 31 is actually a little bit closer to where you're going to be staying. And it's one of the greatest Korean restaurants in New York City. Now, I'll give you a bonus one because Take 31 is right next to a restaurant called Her Name is Han, and they're the same owner, but they're absolutely fantastic. The only thing is you got to make a reservation because it's booked out like a couple days in advance, but those are the ones that I would, those are my recommendations. You know, I think if we walk over one more avenue, we're going to have a really good shot at the full moon. Google says have to take a note of that for a date night with my girl. Thanks, Tom. Oh, dude, those places, those are all 10 out of 10. Those are all 10 out of 10. I'm trying to think any other good recommendations. I'll just keep it at that for now, and then maybe over the next couple streams we'll uncover more. Hey, Nicole is here. Welcome, Nicole. Thank you for joining. Good to see you. Yeah, Nicole, I think you're going to be here later this month too, so definitely check those places out. You know, a very famous, like, touristy type of pizza place called Ray's near Times Square. I'm actually not a big fan, but they are opening up a location in the Wynwood section of Miami. I think they actually may have just opened it up in Wynwood.
Very dry weather, but maybe because of...
All right, I think we got it. I think we're going to get it. Just a couple more steps.
There's never like...
I think right when we get to the corner, the moon may go behind the cloud, but I think we got it. Connor says, do you mean Joe's? I do. I don't know what I said. I think I'm getting a little bit fatigued. But yeah, I think it is Joe's near Times Square. I don't know what I said. I may have said something else, but I think you're right. Yeah, here it is. Okay, it definitely looks better from here. So this is from First Avenue. It definitely looks better from here. Hey, Christine says, love, love, love Becco, and we'll try Mel's in a few weeks when I'm in Manhattan. Christine, you gotta try Mel's. So Mel's and Becco is like the same type of people, but my friend is the chef there at Mel's. But you gotta get a dessert when you go to Mel's because I think that's the best part of the entire meal. Hey, Lupe says, hey Tom, there's a full moon tonight. I hope you don't turn into a werewolf. Thank you so much for the $5 donation, Lupe. But I think we gotta head back now because it's getting late and it's getting dark. So we'll head up one block and then we'll make our way over. Or maybe we'll just, yeah, we'll head up one block and then make our way over. But Lupe, thank you so much for the donation. You are way too kind. So if anybody, you know what I'm going to do, everybody, in the Discord, if you guys want to join our Walks in Wall Street Discord, if you look in the links in one of these descriptions, you can join it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my restaurant recommendations. So if you guys ever want a list of very, very good spots to go to when you're in New York or when you're in Miami, I'll make sure to put them in the links in the Discord. Hey, Kaka Silva's here. Says hello, Tom. Does New York State don't give welfare to homeless? I think they do, but I think on the topic of homelessness, it's not just New York City that's having these issues. It's pretty much all large cities across the United States. I think it can just seem like the media tends to sort of hyper-focus on New York just because it's a big city, but I can guarantee you, I travel a lot for work. It's everywhere. It's not just here. Hey, Marty Lewis is here. What's up, Marty? Good to see you. Any swimming today? Usually Marty Lewis joins right as she's coming back from swimming. You know, I think I made this comment earlier in the stream. I think tonight has been exceptionally loud in New York. A lot going on, a lot of people out. But if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams 5 days per week, starting at 8:30 Eastern Time. 8:30 Eastern Time. So all of these outdoor dining things are going to come down. We covered that in tonight's stream as well. Penelope is here. It says full moon. How's the full moon looking in Tennessee, Penelope? Not bad? Good, bad? What do we got? Keisha M says Cali has a bigger homeless problem than any other state, in my opinion. I think you may be right. I mean, I'm not trying to disguise it and say it's not a big problem. It's a huge problem here in New York. Like a really, really massive problem. But I don't think it's exclusive to New York. Wow, here's another shot at the full moon. Definitely looks a lot better from here because we're not near any street lights. Line Sync says, Tom, are you still hoping to take the Staten Island ferry? Yes, so Sunday night stream will probably be taking the Staten Island ferry again. So Sunday night is our Markets a Look Ahead stream. So usually Sunday night streams are a little bit longer because we have a lot to cover. We go through line item by line item, day by day, all of the major events that are going to be happening on Wall Street throughout the week. So I think it'll be appropriate to do it from the Staten Island ferry. Give our legs a little bit of a rest. But I also want to say thank you guys. I got a lot of very, very nice emails last night on our CPI stream. So last night on the stream, we broke down literally line item by line item the CPI report. And I got a lot of very nice emails. So I appreciate that. Always love the positive feedback. Kerry says homelessness is a huge problem also in San Francisco. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too. You know, not for nothing, I do want to visit San Francisco to see the Salesforce Tower. I'm a big fan of Mark Benioff. I think I've told you guys that. If you want a really good book that has to do with business, pick up the book called Trailblazer by Mark Benioff. Fantastic book. Any of you that are interested in software, check out that book. It's a great book. But if you guys want to connect with us on Twitter, so if you want to continue the conversation throughout the day and look at some of my research that I post for free, you could follow @WalksWallStreet on Twitter, or follow my IG. Some of you guys message me there. Very seldom do I use it, but you guys could always connect with us there. I think we're going to make a left on 14th Street, because 14th Street will bring us all the way back to Union Square, in which case we'll have a straight shot uptown. Patricia Ivory, good to see you. Nicole says, I use Salesforce every day. I used to use Salesforce every day, so now I use a CRM called Zoho. So Zoho is more like, man, look at all this garbage here. Zoho is more like an affordable CRM. I would say for like small and medium-sized businesses that can't afford Salesforce. All right, here we are. We're gonna make a left here, everybody. Denise says people take over jobs for less pay. You can't pay your rent. You up in a shelter or the streets. Hey, Disney Matt says, Tom, I just wanted to let you know that the ferry stream was incredible. It had great views. You got tons of views and showed off a different part of the city. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining. I think it was fun too. You know, I think as of late, we've been starting the streams off obviously on Park Avenue, mainly because that's where I work. So I try to change it up as much as possible. I think the weekends are more appropriate to do that. So I agree. Windy out tonight. It is extremely, extremely windy out tonight. Oh, in other news, everybody, I think we covered this already, but I think it's rather appropriate to quickly cover it again. So BlackRock will be choosing Coinbase as their entity to offer institutional custodial services to their customers as it relates to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency trading. Now, I've always said this is the first part of two necessary parts if cryptocurrency wants to be taken seriously. Because right now, the vast majority of the cryptocurrency universe out there is really, really fraught with fraud. So a lot of the alternative coins, a lot of these things, I believe, are securities. I think you could probably classify them as such. Another thing that I would say is once we have regulatory clarity from Gary Gensler at the SEC, hold on, if we just walk right over here, you can see the Empire State Building again. I'll show you guys. Check it out. This is from 2nd Avenue. You can see the very top of the Empire. So I think once we get regulatory clarity from Gary Gensler at the SEC about can institutions hold this stuff, can sovereign wealth funds hold this stuff, you're going to see the industry become more regulated, and a lot of that nonsense is going to get flushed out. But until that happens, I don't think the space will mature. I am very, very bullish long term on Bitcoin, and I think you guys know that position. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but for it to be an institutionalized asset class, you're going to need the SEC to provide clarity on it, and we just haven't had that yet from the SEC. But a good first major step is obviously the largest money manager by assets, total AUM of BlackRock, choosing Coinbase to provide custody services. I think it's a step in the right direction. I think the SEC is a little bit behind the 8 ball, but once they get it together, I think it'll be good. Kerry, this is Tom. The Children's Hospital is named after Benioff in San Francisco. It's a state-of-the-art hospital. I did hear about that. Yeah, Mark Benioff is a great guy. I think he's one of the greatest software CEOs of our time. If anybody in the chat, once again, is a big fan of software or a big fan of business in general, check out that book, Trailblazer by Mark Benioff. Very good. All right, we are almost back. Unlimited stimulus is, are you bullish on Bitcoin or blockchain? I don't know if they're mutually exclusive, but I think I've said this before. The value proposition that I see with Bitcoin is the unconfiscatable properties. So if you memorize your private keys, if you know your private keys, you know, in theory, you can, you know, walk across the world and move $100 million worth of value across the world with nothing. You know, no third party, no intermediaries. So I think that's my value proposition, but all right, as we come to 5th Avenue, we will end the stream. I do have to make the train, but not to worry, everybody. We will be back here live tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern Time. Hopefully we'll be starting off the stream in Lower Manhattan, and maybe we will, oh yeah, this is Joe's. This is another place. This is the Joe's, not the Joe's I was talking about, but this is one of the Joe's locations. But it's gonna be in Wynwood, Miami. So when we're in Miami, we'll stream past there too. But if you guys enjoyed the stream tonight, hit the like button on the video and subscribe to the live stream if you're new. We'd love to have you back here for more live streams in the future. RS is NYU Dorm, good to see you. George, thank you so much. Eyeglass Lady, always good to see you. Photos from around New York, a pleasure. Gary is here. Zach, thank you so much. Line Sync, Kaka Silva. Nicole, always a pleasure talking to you. Mohammed, thank you for joining. It was a fun night. I think tonight was one of my favorite streams of the week, I would say. One of my favorite streams of the week. Fred X, appreciate it. Mike C, Connor, Wendy, England. Andy, thank you so much from all the way from South Korea. Wow. I think Andy is the furthest distant viewer we have tonight. NMB045, Al J, Mark Davis, Sunshine After Rain, my good friend Marty Lewis, thanks for joining. Hopefully you have a beautiful night. Disney Matt, Natalie. Yeah, so Natalie, we did get to see the full moon. Photos from around New York, appreciate it. Thanks for being a great moderator, Marcy. Western Mass Dave, Bob. Oh yeah, Bob's his great poll question today. So everybody, what we may have coming down the pike, because obviously usually once a week, we have a stream dedicated to talking about the real estate markets. So I've been working with some people, and what I think may be interesting to do on some of those nights that we're talking about real estate is we'll have access to maybe a particular duplex, a triplex, a real estate investment building, or an investment property, maybe commercial office space, and we'll be able to walk up into the building, give you guys a little tour of the building so you could see it, and then we'll run through the financials live on the live stream. And we may even extend that to some apartments. So if you're apartment hunting in New York, you want to see what some look like, the neighborhoods surrounding it, we may start doing that. So if you want to take the poll, go over to the YouTube community page, because we maybe do that. But I really got to go. So thank you guys for joining. It's the Mighty Bull. Have a good night wherever you are, because there's always a bull market somewhere, and you just need to know where to look. I'll see you guys right back here, 8:30 p.m. New York City.